Yo, what's good everybody, it's me, Bakugou Taco, back for another video. And recently I've decided to just start dropping more videos. But you guys know my schedule and you guys know how I like to edit my videos, right? People have told me that I may be going too in-depth with my edits and maybe wasting a lot of time simply working on multiple videos, while other what if YouTubers just drop audio only what ifs. I feel like I'm putting myself in a massive disadvantage by simply just trying my hardest to edit each video and make it super unique. I understand that's a part of my flair, but I also want to provide you guys with content that doesn't take weeks or even months in some cases to come out. So I'm going to be dropping some more audio only what ifs, but that doesn't mean the end of my heavily edited video. Those will still be coming out, don't even worry about that. Things like what if Deku had the Sharingan, or what if Asta had the Sharingan, what ifs like, what if Deku was a mafia boss, and all the other heavily edited what ifs will still be coming out like usual. However, since they take me so long to make, I'm going to be putting out some audio only what ifs to give you guys something to watch in the meantime while I work on the bigger, longer videos. Instead of dropping 25-minute videos, I'm going to be dropping the heavily edited what ifs in big 40-minute parts, which means that you guys will get a big 40-minute video every week while getting smaller 20-minute non-edited videos audio only in between, giving me a chance and time to work on those big videos while still supplying you with content. For you to know the difference between these audio only what ifs and the heavily edited what ifs, you can tell by the thumbnail styles. The thumbnail styles with the heavily edited what ifs will all be edited by me, while the thumbnail styles with the audio only what ifs will be edited by my new thumbnail editor, Mr. Generator Rex. Rex is going to be just spamming me with a bunch of thumbnails and a bunch of video ideas. That way I can supply you guys with content. Shout out to my boy Rex. I met him in the JBT Discord server. If you don't know, the JBT Discord server is a brand new server I created for me and my friends. Go down there in the description. I will leave a link to the server down there below if you want to talk to me. I'm in voice chat at least twice or maybe even 3 times a day, always checking up on everybody in the Discord. If you want to know more about me and what I'm like behind the scenes and how I make my videos, even if you want to become a partner of the channel and work with me, the way to do that is by joining that Discord server. Anyway, I hope to see you guys there. Let's get into this video. This video is going to be what if Deku gave up on Bakugou. We start like in canon. Deku is just a kid trying to make his way through the world without having a quirk. Everything is harder for him, and he's getting picked on by one of his kids and former best friend, Bakugou. Bakugou is a mean, vicious kid who has a flair and a powerful ability to match his fiery personality. Someone who constantly pushes Deku to the brink and always tries to beat up on the kid when he's at his worst and when he's really down bad. Bakugou is a bad person by all means. We see that in the show. He's a bully who abuses his power, but he comes around to Deku later on in the show. But what if that doesn't happen? What if Deku is just resentful towards Bakugou and hates him for everything that he'd been put through, giving up on Bakugou early in the story and treating Bakugou as a villain, someone who could never be a hero and someone who could never be worthy of his friendship? This is what if Deku gave up on Bakugou. Now, during their childhood, Deku would grow up same as usual, quirkless, being beaten down by Bakugou for apparently no reason other than that he's weak and that Bakugou feels like the strong should stand above the weak. We see this in multiple occasions, and in one of these occasions, Deku reaches his peak, yelling at Bakugou, telling him to F off explicitly. And he would say, "Bakugou, you used to be my friend, but now I don't think I can ever forgive you." That's when Deku and Bakugou's relationship would be severed, and as they grew up, Bakugou would hate on Deku, and Deku would give the same amount of hate, even more hate back towards Bakugou. Now, Bakugou is kind of not bothered by this, but that all changes like when in canon, All Might arrives. All Might would arrive on the scene as Deku was being abducted by a villain, and he would stop that villain, defeating him. And that's when the entire chain of events that led to Deku getting One for All happens. Now, in this story, Deku never was resentful. In canon, Deku's always just happy-go-lucky boy who thinks that everybody can be redeemed. until later on in the story, but that's for another day. And that's not going to be the same here. Deku's going to be a lot more straightforward. Of course, he's going to be a dreamer, and still All Might sees that in him, giving him one for all, of course. But Bakugou is just so terrible to him and just was such a bad person to him while he's a kid. He still holds this grudge. When the entire encounter goes down, when Bakugou is being, abducted by the sludge villain, Deku doesn't dive in. He simply waits, watching Bakugou. And he sadistically smiles, seeing Bakugou get a taste of his own medicine, seeing him be helpless the same way that Deku was. However, All Might arrives on the scene. Deku would chase All Might down, and All Might saw something in Deku that he saw in his younger self. Even though Deku didn't burst in and try to save Bakugou, Deku would still be granted one for all. Now you can say that he maybe wouldn't, but that's beyond the point, as we need Deku to have one for all in the story for the chain of events that will happen in this new canon to take place. So now, like I said before, Deku gets one for all, goes through the 3 months training, and applies at UA. Like in canon, when he would go back to school, he would get laughed at for applying into UA, and Bakugou would try to bully him. However, Deku was having none of that. Having his new powers, he knew not to abuse them, but something about Bakugou really made him angry, and he and Bakugou would actually get into a scuffle. Now, Deku had no idea how to use his powers. At this point, he would just charge up to 100% and shatter his arm every time. We know that that's what he was like. He would try to scuffle with Bakugou, knowing that All Might told him not to use his power, and he would listen to his sensei. He would not use his power, trying to beat Bakugou with nothing, using his quirklessness, simply trying to outsmart Bakugou like we would see later on in one of the examinations, but it was not working. He would get blown to bits in this street fight. He would get ganged on and beaten down for simply trying to stand up to Bakugou. Bakugou thought it as teaching Deku a lesson of what the real world was really like, but Deku only saw it as Bakugou being even crueler. Now, after that happens, Deku and Bakugou's relationship is obviously beyond repair. They both go through the entrance exams. Deku passes with flying colors, but this time he is even more serious person. He has a different drive, something inside of him besides just wanting to be a hero. He wanted to crush Bakugou because he knew Bakugou was going to make it in. He wanted to be Bakugou's ultimate rival and eventually take down Bakugou and expose him for the quote-unquote fraud that he was. Deku thought that heroes were not made, they were born. His entire thinking changed. Just because Bakugou had a powerful quirk didn't make him a great hero, he thought, and he would teach him a lesson about herodom. He's a lot more serious, like I said before. Now holding a grudge, it changes Deku's entire personality. He never held a grudge in the canon, but holding a grudge in this new story would make him much more of a spiteful person and a lot serious of a character. Uraraka could see that. Even though Deku was still goofy inside, he had a much darker side to him. Something that was shrouded in darkness, maybe connected to his past. He still becomes friends with Uraraka, but not in the same way. Deku, being the serious goofball, would never trip. He would simply walk up, and Uraraka, sensing something off of him, would want to become his friend. Eventually opening up to each other, Uraraka found that Deku was a cool person. Now, going past that, beyond that point even, Deku is now in the classroom in UA. Of course, like everything happens, he meets Ida, all of his friends, and when he walks in, he sees Bakugou laying back nonchalantly. How could he even dare? He would stare at Bakugou, and Bakugou would stare back. But this time, he sensed that something was different about his little Izuku. Izuku would definitely not do this in canon, but in this story, he was different. Staring at Bakugou, he would walk up to him and say, "What are you gnarling at, Bakugou?" The class that was all cheery and happy to see their new classmates would all of a sudden fall silent as they saw these two interact with each other. Bakugou would go from his nonchalant stance to now sitting up straight, looking Deku in the eye. Deku is standing over him, and Bakugou doesn't like that one bit. He would tell Deku to back off or else. Deku would respond with, "No, are you gonna make me?" Bakugou would look back at Deku saying, "We both know how this already ends." I did it to you before when we were kids. I did it to you before when we left middle school, and I'll do it to you now in UA. I don't even know how you got into the hero course. Weakling. Deku, angered, would actually shove Bakugou, who was sitting down in his chair. Bakugou would fall over when all of a sudden, Mr. Aizawa would pop out of his sleeping bag. Sensing the commotion that was going on, he broke the two up. The two disgruntled teens were still angry at each other, basically hurling at each other, bursting at the bits for a fight. Aizawa, knowing this, broke them up like I said before, and we head on to the Quirk apprehension test, like in canon. Now, everything goes like in canon except for the entire classroom can sense the tension between Deku and Bakugou. While walking up to the stage of the Quirk apprehension test, Uraraka and Ida, who were now getting closer to Deku and saw him as this nice, cool, cheerful kid, would all of a sudden ask him about the question, who is this guy Bakugou, and how did he make you change like that? Deku was this cool, calm kid, like I said before. He was really a goofball and someone who was always open about how much he loved heroes and was a bit of a nerd. Sensing that this guy had a serious hatred for a fellow student, let alone a fellow classmate, was a big deal. Especially on the first day of school. Deku would tell them that Bakugou was his childhood bully, and just 3 months ago, he beat him up in a street fight. Uraraka and Ida couldn't believe it. How was this kid even a hero? How could he even get into UA, they would ask? And that's when Bakugou would pick up a ball and throw it, showcasing his quirk. Deku would say, look at him. His ability is amazing. That's the only reason he's even able to enter this course to try to become a hero. He's not a hero. He's a bully. He's no better than a villain. Ida and Uraraka would look at each other and think. Deku was getting really emotional about this. And when it was his time to step up to the tee to throw the baseball, he would charge up one for all. Aizawa would stop him. But Deku, not giving a damn, still pushed and threw the ball anyway, trying to reactivate one for all. He damn near broke Aizawa's quirk with sheer willpower, but he didn't in the end, and the ball flopped weakly on the ground. Bakugou, looking at Deku power up his hand, was confused. How come he never showcased his power before? How come he didn't use it in their scuffle earlier on that year? Bakugou was really confused, while Deku was really angry. Moving on beyond that point, Deku and Bakugou would stare at each other for the rest of the day. Past the Quirk apprehension test, past all of that, they were still pissed at one another. This rivalry would make the air in the classroom stiff. Everyone felt the tension between the two. It kind of messed up the entire vibe of the classroom. Aizawa had to get in between the two. Somehow, he had to mend things between them. But he didn't know. Things between them were unmendable. After the first day of classes in UA, Aizawa would pull the two back into the homeroom class, and he would sit the two down. He would say, you two, you either have to have a discussion or fight it out like men. If you both want to become heroes, this is not the way to go. You can't end up hating each other. What if you two get both sent out on a mission together? What then? Your chemistry has to be good. That's the only way to become a hero. You can't just go around hating other pros for no reason. Deku, looking at Aizawa, all of a sudden got serious and said, I have a reason to hate this bastard. Anyway guys, that's where I'm going to be ending the video. Let me know if you guys want more of this. Get down there in the comments and theorize. That always helps me out. The algorithm loves that. And I love you if you do it. Anyway, like I said before, the Discord link is down there. Go down there, I'm in there 3 times a day. And I will catch you in the next one. Peace. Yo, what's up everybody? It's me, Bakugou back for the video. Today I'm bringing you guys a brand new part of what if Deku gave up on Bakugou. What if Deku gave up on Bakugou? When we last left off, Aizawa had just asked Deku and Bakugou an important question. Do the two of them want to stay in UA? The only time that was going to happen is if the two of them actually mended their relationship. Deku would reply to Aizawa saying, I am never going to mend things between them. Aizawa could immediately sense that there was some deep history between these two. After Deku's answer, Deku would storm out of the classroom. Mindful, guys, that this entire last part had only taken place during really the entire first day the two of them were at UA. So all that tension between the two of them in the classroom, at the Quirk apprehension test, and when they were seeing each other after doing their tests to enter UA in the first place had only really happened in the span of a few weeks, and the Quirk apprehension test had only really happened in the span of that school day. As the bell rang and Deku ran out, Aizawa and Bakugou were left stunned. Aizawa would stare at Bakugou. Bakugou knew that he wasn't getting out of the situation. Deku had done the dash and left Bakugou there to explain everything. Bakugou would sit down with Aizawa, and the two would have a conversation, with Bakugou recollecting everything between he and Deku. And that's when he realizes, speaking to Aizawa, recollecting he and Deku's history together, that it was him the entire time. He was the bad guy. He was the villain in the story. And Deku seemingly had all the reason in the world to hate him. You guys know that this is something that Bakugou never really goes through in canon. Bakugou only really figures this out after he and Deku have that scuffle between each other later on in the series. But Bakugou figuring this out so much earlier on changes a lot of the events that's going to happen in the story, particularly in the following week. Bakugou would then ask Aizawa, after telling him everything and come to that realization that he was the cause of everything and he was the main problem, how Deku was even able to get into UA in the first place. The Deku that he knew had always been a quirkless kid, and this perks up Aizawa's ears. Aizawa did not know this about Deku. Remember, nobody did. Deku had suddenly appeared on the scene as a crazy kid with an immense quirk and detrimental power. Hearing that he had grown up quirkless was confusing to Aizawa. Aizawa then dismisses Bakugou, telling him that he can go on with the rest of his day. Aizawa takes that information and immediately brings it up to someone very important. The following day, Deku would arrive back in class, and the tension would continue. Bakugou was feeling really bad about himself, because remember, he had come to the realization that he was the reason for everything. So he wanted to mend things between he and Deku, but Deku was not feeling that at all. They would constantly stare at each other, Bakugou continually to put up this wall between he and Deku. For some reason, he couldn't just open up. He was always very closed-minded with his emotions and couldn't ever really say something to Izuku. It all just made him feel too mushy inside. So for the rest of the stint in the classroom before they got out and did some actually quirk training, Deku and Bakugou would cause the air in the classroom to remain stiff, just like the first day at UA. At this point, all their classmates were starting to feel that this was something that was going to last for the rest of the year, potentially for the rest of the stint at UA. Nobody liked this. And as such, on the break right before they would actually go and do the quirk training, Deku's new friends, Ida and Uraraka, would actually try to get Deku to understand and try and talk, maybe work things out with Bakugou. But Deku would yell at them, saying no, he will never forgive him. Saying, you know what he did to me for my entire life. He was always there in the background, and now he's here in UA. If I turn on him and say, hey, can we be friends now? That'll basically be admitting that he did nothing wrong. When he did, I am not going to ever go and stoop down to his level. He's a monster, guys. Uraraka would look at each other and sigh. Those two were never going to make up, were they? Skipping past that, we finally get to the quirk training. It would be the hero versus villain training, including All Might. The one we would have to go and grab a nuclear missile and stop it before it could explode. One team would be playing the villains, and another team would be playing the heroes, infiltrating them. As all the teams gathered and people started to match up, Deku and Uraraka would match up against Bakugou and Ida. As soon as this matchup came on the big screen, everyone fell silent. The cool Jerry mood about their first actual practical exam or practical lesson immediately dissipated. Everyone stared at Deku and Bakugou as the two turned their heads to look at each other. They would look at each other and lock eyes, and then immediately turn their heads back. Deku had a determined look on his face, and Bakugou a one with questioning. The first thing on his mind is, when is he gonna get the chance to talk to Deku? Should he even talk to Deku? The second thing on his mind was, will he finally get to see what Deku's quirk's all about? All Might would look at Izuku, thinking, what the hell? These two kids, there's more to them than I previously thought. All the matches go like in canon, and we draw near to Deku vs Bakugou's matchup. The matchup begins, and in this version of the canon, Deku, being filled with rage and being much more compulsive when it comes to Bakugou, acts in a completely different way. Where in canon, he would try and observe the situation, analyzing it, and thinking the next best step from there, he immediately takes off, telling Uraraka to get to the rocket by any means possible. Pretty much leaving her by herself. Like he did in canon, but in canon at least it was discussed. This makes Uraraka see Deku in a completely different light than she did in canon, where Deku immediately came off as an extremely smart person, always thinking and calculating before he does anything. He seemed more compulsive and driven by a need and anger to dominate his old bully. She kinda didn't like that. Deku would burst off. In this version of the story, like I said before, he's a lot more compulsive. He immediately heads towards Bakugou's location, and Bakugou knows that Deku is coming straight for him. They know that when they see each other, it's on sight, immediate smoke, and Bakugou automatically preps his quirk. He's warming up and revving for the encounter with Deku. Like Aizawa said, they were going to have to figure things out, whether that was through talking or the way that Bakugou would prefer it, the art of battle. Head-on, manly brawl between these two powerhouses. Only Bakugou didn't know that Deku was a powerhouse. That street fight that happens, unlike in canon, actually changes a lot. In Bakugou's mind, it kind of makes Deku seem like a weak figure, even more. See, when in canon, Bakugou and Deku were going to fight, Bakugou was already expecting something. He was expecting Deku to come out and show his quirk off to Bakugou. But in this, Bakugou knows that even when Deku had this power, had this ability to beat Bakugou, he still didn't use it. So he didn't think that Deku was actually going to even show his quirk in this. While Bakugou was thinking about this, Deku had just arrived on the scene and screamed out, projecting his attack. "I'm gonna kill you, Bakugou!" "Hey, Deku." The two would clash, Bakugou letting off an explosion. Using his elbow would stop right in front of Deku, pushing him back, causing him to fall on his feet. Deku falls on his butt. Looking up at Bakugou, who is standing over him prepping for an explosion, he says, "This fits you. You've never been a hero. The role of the villain is the one that you'll always play, in my opinion." "Shut up, Izuku." "You will never understand this. The strong will always dominate the weak. It has nothing about me being a villain. It's just that you're such an easy target. How could I resist?" As Bakugou was blabbing his mouth, Deku was doing exactly what All Might told him not to do, using his quirk. Secretly, unbeknownst to Bakugou, Deku was powering up one of his fingers. He hid it behind his back when he fell on his butt. Deku was a compulsive idiot in this, but he's still a smart strategist. Even on the fly, he came up with that quick strategy, something that he wouldn't even think of until the sports festival. I guess having a drive against Bakugou is kind of a good thing, at least in this case. He pulls out his powered up finger, pointing it at Bakugou. All Might stares at the screen with anticipation as Deku says to Bakugou, "Weak, huh? I'll show you how strong I really am." Letting off an 100% power flick, it tears through the building that they were in, completely ripping it in half. Bakugou just barely dodges, but in all that action, he still gets grazed on the left side of his body. Meanwhile, all this is going down, Uraraka still has to go ahead and save the bomb. As that explosion happened, Ida looks up, breaking character. He's actually very worried now. The entire building had just been ripped in half. The cameras go out, All Might staring at the screen as everything is covered in smoke. He yells out, "Izuku!" While Edie is distracted, Uraraka touches the bomb. In that exact moment, the cameras finally cut back on. Everyone stares, waiting. As the dust clears, they see the aftershock of Deku's quirk. They see how powerful this kid truly is. Bakugou is now grabbing his arm, screaming in pain, as Deku lays on the floor, looking at the carnage he just created. He stands up, walking over to Bakugou, looking down at him as he screams and hurls. Bakugou's entire left side is completely shattered. Skin is torn from his arm. All of that would definitely leave a scar. Now do you understand? Bakugou. Deku then turns around, pulling the hood back up on his costume, walking away, leaving Bakugou stranded there, wallowing in pain. Anyway guys, that's going to be the end of this part. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the entire encounter between Deku and Bakugou. In the future, I promise that the parts will actually be getting longer. I just felt like I had to end it right there. That was just the perfect place to end it. Follow my social medias in the description. I'm really active on all of my social medias now. I'm going to be posting a lot of content on TikToks, posting what ifs on TikTok. So yes, beware. They're going to be Bakugou Taco what ifs on TikTok. I'm still trying to figure out how I'm going to do them, but they are going to be like 1 minute short what ifs. So go check me out there. I stream pretty much every day on Twitch. I try my best. I didn't stream today because I was working on this video, obviously, but I'll try and stream again tomorrow. But it's a hectic time in my life right now as I'm moving houses. So if I don't get the time to stream as much on Twitch, you guys know why. But I guarantee you guys that you will get a Sunday stream this Sunday on Twitch. That is a guarantee. Yeah. Like I said at the end of all of my videos, like, comment, subscribe, all that fun jazz. And I will catch you in the next one. I really do hope you enjoyed this. Peace. Yo, what's up everybody? It's me, Bakugou Taco back from the video. Today I'm bringing you guys a brand new part of What If Deku Gave Him Bakugou. Now, first of all, I want to say thank you guys for the support on this series so far. Second of all, I want to say I'm sorry that everything's taken so long. If you guys didn't know, if you're in the Discord server, you probably know. Discord server in the link below. I have been moving, and it's been a really stressful process, you know, taking everything from my old house, taking it to my new house. For a while there, I was just using my computer on the ground, laying down using it, because I didn't have a desk. So it's been a really long process, but I'm finally back in the, the time and period to make videos. What if Asta had the Rinnegan special will be coming out? Just give me some more time on it. Because of the move, everything's been kind of messed up and my schedule has just gotten kind of thrown to the wind. So now I'm going to be trying to get back on schedule by pushing What If Asta Had the Rinnegan back. I'm sorry, I said Deku before. What if Asta had the Rinnegan back? Next week it will be coming out, but you know, I have a lot of stuff going on in my life and I don't want to rush out an unfinished video. You guys already know. When the video does come out, it's going to be the best thing I've ever created. I'm going to try to one-up everything I've done up to this point with that video. And yeah, I'm sorry for taking up so much of you guys' time. Don't forget to like the video if you do like the video and you want to see more. Where we last left off, Deku had just used One For All 100% one of his fingers to blow the test building completely in half, also shattering the left side of Bakugou's body completely, leaving him with a myriad of broken bones, crying on the floor. Deku would turn around, putting his hood up, walking away. As the bell rang, Deku and Team Uraraka won. Everyone was left in awe and in shock. All Might simply gritted his teeth angrily. Deku had gone against all of All Might's wishes. This wasn't what he wanted for the kid. All Might had specifically told Deku not to use his powers because he was afraid a situation like this might potentially happen. Deku walks out, and All Might and he stare at each other. They would need to have a conversation about this. They stare at each other for a cool 5 seconds. Then, Deku simply walks away, ignoring All Might. His hoodie's still up. Yuraka would then walk out. She had no idea what had gone on. I mean, she was there, but she didn't know that Deku had destroyed everything and shattered Bakugou's bones. As Yuraka walked out, the paramedics rushed in to go and save Bakugou. Yuraka is stunned. She stares at Deku, who looks back at her angrily. He smirks and then turns around. Everyone was angry at him. He could tell. After this whole incident, they would have to move buildings. Luckily for them, the UA facilities are vast, large, and had multiple subsidiary buildings that could be of use to the entire class. They move buildings as everyone worries about Bakugou. For the rest of the exam, or for the rest of the class, everything pretty much goes like in canon. But throughout the class, there's still that air, that tightness. Everyone had begun talking, and they had thought this rivalry between Deku and Bakugou was more than a rivalry. They could tell that these two were bitter enemies. After the end of the entire class and the end of the day, All Might would pull Deku aside, and they would go to have a conversation in All Might's office. When Deku sat down, All Might plainly stated it. Why did you do that to that kid, Izuku? Izuku, I understand that you and he have some history. Am I wrong? Did he go to the same middle school as you? I'm assuming he did. Izuku responded with, yes, All Might. He did go to the same middle school as me. And he tormented me. He bullied me. Simply because I didn't have a quirk. He's scum. Izuku, now calm down. No, All Might, the things he did to me, I'll never forgive him for it. So don't even bother trying. Deku starts crying real tears. All Might can clearly see that Deku is scarred by whatever happened between he and this boy. Deku turns around, standing up from his chair. He says, what he did to me when we were younger as kids, I'll never forgive him. You might as well stop trying to make Aizawa did, and he failed. I'm never going to forgive him. All Might sighed, saying, yes, I understand. All Might had never heard Izuku speak like this. He was always a soft boy, a quiet boy, and someone who seemed like he could get along with everyone. But for some reason, the person that had scarred him the most, this kid, was not a case that could be forgiven. He says, I understand, Izuku, you're hurt by this. And I won't ask you to forgive the kid. I definitely won't ask you to do that. But what I am going to ask you to do is obey the rules. I set them in place for a reason. You can't just go around flaunting your power that you don't even know how to wield. I told you to be careful with your quirk, and that's the exact opposite of what you did. If you being angry at this kid is going to lead you to into outbursts like that, then simply put, you're not fit to be a hero, and you're definitely not fit to be an inheritor of One for All. So, starting this week, I'm going to be banning you from using the quirk for 2 whole weeks straight until you learn some restraint. Do you understand? Deku turned around looking at All Might. He was serious. He then turned his back to All Might, saying, yes, I understand, as he walked out of All Might's office. All Might sighed. But before walking out completely, Deku would turn around, looking at All Might, eyes still teary. He said, I did the right thing, didn't I? He hurt me, so I hurt him back. I got back for him, for everything he did during our childhood. For bullying me. All Might, I'm sorry, but I feel like I did the right thing. I don't take back anything I did to him, and I stick by it. I accept the rules. I won't use One for All, but I know what I did was fair. Do you know what he did to me? No, you don't, All Might. You don't. Deku then rushes out. We now skip to the U.S.J. As everybody in the entire class gets to loading on the bus, Deku was in a cheery mood. Bakugou hadn't been in the class over a week because he was recovering, getting his injuries healed by Recovery Girl and simply recovering them in a natural way. He was off of class for an entire week, and that's through the time period where everyone kind of started theorizing around the classroom. Of course, they would never bring it up to Deku's face, but everyone was kind of chitter-chattering about him, and the incident spread from the class to the entire school like wildfire. They kind of spread rumors that Deku was a cool, calm, collected kid, except for when it came to Bakugou, which then he turned into a hothead. And rumors about his powers swirled around the entire school of UA, saying that he had super strength similar to All Might, causing Deku's stock to rise quickly, quicker than it would in canon. Now, as everyone loads onto the bus, that's when Bakugou would be welcomed back into the class. Last minute, Bakugou would limp back onto the bus, not fully healed from his injuries, kind of getting used to using his body again. Recovery Girl had warned him that if another injury like this had taken place to his body again, she wouldn't be able to save him. This injury could have potentially been life-altering for Bakugou, but help with, scientific medical research and Recovery Girl's amazing Quirk combined created Bakugou's healing factor and really fixed him up. Bakugou had been injured so bad, metal rods had been placed in his arm and legs to stimulate growth of his bones. That's how badly hurt he actually was. Deku did more than a number on this kid. Skipping past the entire thing, as Bakugou walked onto the bus, everyone was completely silent. Bakugou would turn around screaming, "Why are you all so quiet, you damn nerds?" And that lightened the mood greatly. As Bakugou headed to the back of the bus with his buddy Kirishima, the entire class started chitter-chattering again, and everything felt like it was going back to semi-normal. While Deku was in the front, Bakugou was in the back, keeping their distance. Bakugou couldn't help but shake a feeling of jealousy. He wasn't angry at Deku, he was jealous of him. His power was simply outstanding. Even with Bakugou's crazy explosion powers, he could never, ever do what Deku did with just a flick of his finger. It was scary, it was powerful, and it made Bakugou jealous, not angry. A feeling that Bakugou never felt before. He had never been jealous of Deku. He had always just been angry that the kid was quirkless. But he started theorizing. Maybe Deku kept this quirk a secret because it was that powerful. Maybe he was lied to all of his life. Maybe this, maybe that, with no concrete answers. Bakugou would keep on thinking and thinking as the bus arrived at the U.S.J. Everything would go like in canon, up until the villain's attacks. Which everything that led up to this point changes the story greatly. Bakugou and Deku affect everything around them in ways unlike seen in the original canon. And that's where we're going to have to end the part. I'm sorry guys that I'm ending the part here on another cliffhanger, but I simply have to because of time constraints. It's 5:20 a.m. in the morning when I'm recording this. Just letting you guys know, that's how down bad I am right now. I have to record this 5:20 a.m. in the morning. But yeah, I already recorded this once. The recording didn't come out the way I wanted to do it, so it came out and I recorded it twice, and a whole bunch of things coming on. There will be longer videos in the future. I just want to say, What If Asta the Rinnegan is going to be coming out the end of this week. Hopefully, I'm going to be getting back on schedule, hopefully, and expect new announcements, and from All-Star Anime as well. Expect new announcements from All-Star Anime, and a new project in the future. I'm probably going to announce it in 1 or 2 videos, but expect more soon. And I mean soon, I mean like next day soon. When I say soon, you guys know I don't play about that. Soon means like next day soon, so stay tuned. Like the video if you like the video. If you want to see the series continue, let me know by liking the video and commenting. Get engaged. Like I said, in all my videos, like, comment, subscribe, all that fun jazz, and I will catch you in the next one. I love every single one of you. Peace. Damn. Yo, what's good everybody? It's me, Big Taco, back for another video, and today I'm bringing you guys proud of a completely, original series made by me. What if Deku gave up on Bakugou? Shout out to my boy Rex For the thumbnail, as always, Rex, consistent with these thumbnails. If you guys didn't know, Rex is the thumbnail maker. That's my guy right there. I don't know if you, maybe I'll get a cameo. Rex, say something. If I do eventually get a cameo, say something to the camera, Rex. My boy Rex, he will be having a What If channel coming out, and yeah, go subscribe to Rex's channels, and if you haven't already, go subscribe to Taco What Ifs, my new side channel, where I'm going to be posting movies every single day. I'm also working on some original content for there. All the original content on Taco's What Ifs gonna be longer videos where I just ramble, like 40-minute What Ifs, 50-minute What Ifs, all unscripted, where I just keep on talking and rambling and rambling. So that's what the original videos are going to be like. I've already thought of that, and I'm working on something else right now. I kind of want to tease it a little bit. 1-minute videos, Taco Shorts, working on that, trying to get that formula perfected, but you can't expect to see a lot of things. I'm gonna have my hands on a lot of things this coming August. All I wanted to say, and sorry for taking up so much of you guys' time. Let's get to it. Now, where we last left off, things were going down a very tumultuous trek for our young protagonist. Izuku Midoriya had just yelled at his sensei. Not really yelled at him, but professed something to him that felt like a yell. It felt like Deku was raising his voice in a way, saying that what he did to Bakugou was right, saying that he stood by everything he did. Bakugou had tormented Deku, and he felt like he did no wrong. After that, All Might got worried, thinking, what is his successor transforming into? He never thought that he would evolve this fast. He damn sure wasn't the same kid that he had met previously. He damn sure wasn't the same kid that he was training in the beach. Something in that period really changed Deku, and I think we all know what that something is. The fight that he had got into with Bakugou, being jumped. He had never told All Might about it. Where Bakugou shoved his head into the ground, even though Deku had the power to completely stop him, but didn't use it because he held back. Where Bakugou held his power over him in a way that made him feel like a villain, where Deku didn't stand up. In that instance, Deku felt as though he wasn't being a true hero. So now we flash back towards the bus heading towards U.S.J. Things on it is pretty stiff, but everyone flows. Everyone acts like there's nothing going on, when deep down inside, everybody does. But to keep the sense of semi-normalcy, they all act like everything's okay, when it isn't. Getting off the bus and entering the U.S.J, you can expect the same events that happened in Ganon to happen here. The hero, Black Hole Hero, number 3 hero, I don't really think I remember Black Hole Heroes. Sorry guys, I'm a bit of a clown when it comes to remembering some of these characters' names. And Aizawa go on explaining everything to all the kids, and they each separate into their own groups to take on their own task, just like in canon. Deku would end up with Uraraka, in this, Uraraka and Deku's relationship is kind of going down a different path, as Uraraka was with Deku when Deku did what he did to Bakugou. We all know what I mean, when he broke the hell out of Bakugou's body, shattering the left side of his body completely, leaving Bakugou damaged for seemingly ever, until Recovery Girl could patch him up and shove some metal rods in him. And that is what we have to deal with here. Uraraka and Tsuyu having this awkward feeling around Deku. Now Uraraka is still Uraraka and Tsuyu is still Tsuyu. They're two very sociable people. They all start to chat it up, forcing Deku to come out of his little teeny hole and start, talking and conversing. But after that happens, the conversation stays in a very linear path. We don't get the same in-depth relationship as we did in canon, especially with Tsuyu. Now Uraraka, she feels like she's Deku's friend, so she feels like she really has something to say to Izuku and really wants to flesh out the relationship. And throughout this entire tumultuous period, the villains attack. Add on top of that all the tension that was already in the classroom. Villains attack the U.S.J, and not only just some villains, the League of Villains. Shigaraki and his goons come busting through the place, setting everything on fire, attacking the kids, trying to get All Might's attention. They're not gonna get All Might's attention the way that they would want to, though, because they have someone here who could potentially stop them. Someone here who could potentially match the power of an All Might. They have Izuku Midoriya, his successor. Now, Midoriya, just like in canon, goes through everything he does with Tsuyu and Uraraka on that boat. But on that very faithful boat, on that very same boat we see in canon, this is where everything takes a change in this new alternate universe. Deku, using his ability that he learned during that same training with Bakugou, learning how to shoot wind attacks by breaking one of his fingers, which he wouldn't learn until this very moment, is now on his 10s and O's, on his P's and Q's. Deku was molded into a much more serious person. I'm not gonna say he's super serious, but he's much more on his toes because he's already been beaten down by a villain before. That villain being Bakugou, creating Deku a much more active and much more aware hero in the process. He's still Izuku, but he's more aware. And this now more aware Izuku goes up against these villains. Izuku, using his wind powers, can thwart off these villains and quickly comes up with a strategy, quicker than he would in canon. You see, these events that happen with Bakugou are really intense on Deku's own psyche, because his over-analyzing way caused him to overthink things and think giving up on Bakugou was the right decision to make. Letting Bakugou go let Deku know to move on with his life, but he still couldn't do it, causing Deku to become an intensely passionate person. That's the word I was looking for to describe everything. Deku is a lot more passionate now, and as so, takes everything a little bit more serious. That being said, Deku was able to thwart off the villains attacking he and Uraraka. Combining all three of their powers, Deku in a smart way gets them away from the ship and towards the mainland, where they can be helped and help out some of the other students and teachers. Deku, as in canon, runs into Aizawa being tortured by Nomu Shigaraki. Now, even though Deku didn't have a great relationship with Aizawa, Aizawa was nothing but nice to Deku. Aizawa was his sensei, and Aizawa was the person that tried to at least bring up the conversation of there being a man between he and Deku. That was something to admire in Izuku. And Izuku, being a lot more passionate and already having one crushing experience, did not want to have another, did not want to witness his sensei dying in front of his eyes, and as so, like a true hero, dove into it. Where in canon he would hesitate, being met with a feeling that he could never overcome this great of a challenge, he dove straight in. And when he moved, that caused the two behind him, Uraraka and Frappy, who by following him got out of the sticky situation they were in, instantly move. His passion moved them, even though they were more scared stiff than Izuku ever could be. And they all ran towards the Nomu. The Nomu turns, sets its sights. Shigaraki laughs and says, "Get him." And the Nomu charges off towards Deku, Uraraka, and Tsuyu. The three battle it out, with Deku dodging, running, and Uraraka using a float on Tsuyu to make sure that she's unhittable. But this is an unwinnable battle for them. Things start to go south very quick. I would say about 10 seconds into the fight, when Deku finally lands one of his crushing wind blows, breaking off his pinky finger. He is now like 4 fingers down, so he has about 7 fingers left. Causes the Nomu to focus his attention on him. Brushing off the attack quickly, the Nomu shakes his head, looking up to see what just hit him. Shigaraki pays attention to Deku because that was quite a powerful attack. I mean, it done a lot of damage to anyone else that wasn't that Nomu. You remember, it shattered Bakugou's body. The Nomu, looking back, immediately charges at Deku, in which the flying Suyu, who is in midair and has the ability to use her tongue, swings over to Deku like Spider-Man swinging on a web and gets in the way of this Nomu. Deku tries his best to stop her, but it's too late, and Suyu gets punched in the face. A direct hit from the Nomu which sends her sprawling across the goddamn U.S.J. like a rag doll. She lands, hurt and bruised, which then she stumbles upon Bakugou. Now this Bakugou alongside Kirishima have their own little side mission. Bakugou with Kirishima, they went through a myriad of villains, but they didn't stay in the exact same location like they would in canon, fighting off their own little group. No, Bakugou moved with a force. He knew that all the real action would be taking place in the middle of the U.S.J. Smart Bakugou. He was never the smartest strategist in the original canon, at least not at this time. This is something that he would develop much later on. But his defeat by the hands of Deku, so stunningly fast, reshaped Bakugou. In the original canon, yes, it reshaped Bakugou, making him a more strategical thinker and pushing him towards the Bakugou we know, but he wasn't completely the Bakugou we know. He was, still on that developing path. The same way Deku was still on the developing path. But their clash changed this event so greatly, with Bakugou before, simply in that street fight, beating on Deku, even though Deku at the time had already done the UA entrance exam and passed with flying colors. He knew that Deku had a power. He just couldn't pinpoint it. He wanted to draw it out during that street fight, but wasn't able to. That's what made him angry, and that's why he continued to pummel Deku, because he was waiting for him to show him that unleashed power, but he never passed with flying colors. He knew that Deku had a power. He just couldn't pinpoint it. He wanted to draw it out during that street fight, but wasn't able to. That's what made him angry, and that's why he continued to pummel Deku, because he was waiting for him to show him that unleashed power, but he never did. So he beat on him harder and harder and worse, and eventually, nothing came of it. But at their very first week in UA, in their very first actual practical training class, Deku out of nowhere comes and explodes with a power that Bakugou simply hasn't seen before. The only thing that can really match it is All Might on TV. He's seeing this power and it blows through him quickly, swiftly, without even the smallest inkling or smallest hint of anything happening. And Deku walks out. Maybe if he walked out and ran towards All Might, that would have gave Bakugou some sort of idea. But he walks out, looks at All Might like they don't have any connection at all, pulls his head up, and walks away. This leaves Bakugou super confused. And that leads him to searching for answers, and leads him to growing into much more of a strategical thinker, leads him to overthinking things. In the exact same vein as Deku, Bakugou is becoming Deku-esque, and as so, rushes into the middle of the field of battle. He's going to prove himself as a greater hero than Deku, if it's the last thing he did. He rushes in, and that's when he sees Suyu. It was like nothing he'd ever seen before. He looked over to see what happened, and he sees Deku standing there scared. He's being held in the air by the Nomu by his neck, and he's trying his best to get loose, kicking the Nomu and kicking him, but it keeps on choking him. Deku knows what he has to do. He has to get one of his fingers free so he can let off a blast, but he's getting choked so bad that he's losing consciousness and can't focus his hand. Deku's hand flares around in air as he tries to aim it. Uraraka runs at Deku, but before she could, Bakugou comes off with his own explosion, exploding in the air, doing a twist right towards the Nomu, grabbing Uraraka and sending her flying back, leaving her knocking into the ocean. As she did, Kirishima dived in the ocean to go and save her. Bakugou refocuses on the Nomu and blasts towards it, letting off a massive blast, a big Bakugou special attack murder explosion, causing the Nomu to stand there stiff. But when all the smoke cleared, Nomu, looking over at Bakugou, simply drops Deku. And this time, it was getting serious. It screeched at Bakugou and ran towards him. Bakugou did a couple flips back, and the Nomu kept on wildly swinging. It was just too fast. It caught up as Bakugou was in the air, grabbing Bakugou by his leg, swinging him down towards the floor, smashing his head into the ground. Picking him up, he started wailing Bakugou around like a rag doll, and then he got ready to throw him. He twisting him around, powering up a throw. As he did, Deku looked up wimply, seeing what was happening to his, at the time, someone he thought to be mortal enemy. He looks at all this as the Nomu powers him up. He sighs. And then, immediately, Deku goes 100% in one of his legs. He yells, "Bakugou!" as he charges up and blasts off. He does it directly towards the Nomu. With his enraged powered fist, he pulls back and strikes the Nomu directly in its gut, sending it flying past the ocean stage of the U.S.J. outside the building. Bakugou's arm is completely broken, shattered at this point, but it was in 100%. That was a direct 100% hit in the critical spot of the Nomu. The Nomu couldn't recover from this. It was critical. It hit it directly in a weak spot. Or that's what they thought at the time. As Shigaraki stood in shock, Bakugou and Deku looked at each other. Deku simply fell out. He passed out. Bakugou ran over, screaming, "Deku!" And that's when Shigaraki stepped up to the plate. Anyway, guys, that's going to be the end of the episode. I mean, it felt like an episode, didn't it? The end of the part. Yeah, this was so much fun to me. Could you guys hear the passion in my voice? This series is getting better and better, in my opinion, and I can't wait to bring you guys more. And I finally brought you guys that long part. It's over 15 minutes. It's a long part. It's over 15 minutes. It's a pretty long part for me, at least. I always drop like 10-minute parts. But yeah, I hope you guys did enjoy. Let me guys know what you think about everything that's going on. Theorize in the comments. What do you think is going to happen next? And like, comment, subscribe, all that fun jazz, and I'll catch you in the next one. If you haven't already, go subscribe to Taco What Ifs and be on the lookout for Mr. Rex's videos. Peace. That was fire.